Welcome to the Wandering Tangent Podcast. I'm BJ. With me is Jeff and Gary. And today we're going to talk about the 1970 holiday musical, Scrooge.
Yes.
You can tell how very excited Jeff and Gary are about this. I'm very excited, but Jeff and Gary are either very tired or very not excited. I haven't been able to tell yet.
I would say something, but I was shooing a cat away from my microphone the moment you said that.
Yes,
being Scrooge-like is what I was doing.
Blame the feline.
Yeah.
It just took me forever to find this movie. That's all.
Yeah, I did discover last night that apparently there is a animated version on Netflix that was just released last year. I listened to one of the songs for about 10 seconds. And I was like, no thank you, sir.
So a brand new animated version. So it has songs in it like this one?
Oh yeah, it's a remake of this one, except they replaced one of the songs with a new song, which I did not bother to listen to. They got rid of I Hate People for a new song.
Oh, see.
I guess I Hate People is not child friendly. I don't know.
That's disappointing they got rid of that one.
I guess you can't have a villain like these days, but go
ahead. I won't interrupt.
No,
about the one I have not seen.
I was going to say, I guess you can't have a villain these days, but because
they did say in one of the reviews, I said they did say that they tried to paint Scrooge in a more more sympathetic light, which is weird because isn't that kind of the
entire point of Scrooge,
the end of the movie?
The entire point of the Scrooge is the concept of redemption. You start out with a person who's utterly absolutely horrible, but is not irredeemable, because the essence of the story is that everybody is redeemable given enough time, and it doesn't matter what point in life you are. This man is basically...
And enough ghost visits.
Yeah,
obviously
given enough effort.
The story's only like 150 years old, has probably been made into that many movies.
Yeah.
What do they know, right? We have to modernize it.
This is a very old story from the 1840s. It was
exactly
1843, I think, was the first published date of the Christmas Carol.
Christmas Carol is, you're right, 1843.
Uh-huh.
Almost 180 years ago.
Wow.
180 years this year, I guess.
Yep. And who that guy, whatever. It's not
Charles Dickens.
Whatever his name is.
Know about storytelling, right?
No one cares about. It's obviously not its entire own genre of stories specifically retelling this one specific story.
There's not literally dozens and dozens of film adaptations of this particular movie.
Yes.
No, sir.
Yeah, and the one that we're reviewing is a very unique one. There's no other Christmas Carol version quite like the one that we're doing, which I think is called Scrooge, right? That's the title? I always thought it was Scrooge the musical, but it's just called Scrooge.
Yeah, it's called Scrooge. That's why I opened the podcast with, today we're going to talk about 1970 musical Scrooge. It's almost as if I say the title at the beginning of every podcast, Jeff.
You keep expecting me to pay attention to things. Why is that?
As the co-founder of this as one of the hosts of this podcast, Jeff, yes, I do expect you to pay at least a little bit of attention to what I'm saying when I open the podcast. Otherwise we're back at the beginning of Jaws, where you just repeat pretty much word for word what I said, and you can't understand why I'm getting mad at you.
Oh, come now. Well, I guess it is. So
hey, that made a big enough impression that one of my sisters was laughing about it at Thanksgiving dinner because they were asking about the podcast, and one of my sisters like, I think it's funny when you're mean to Jeff because he kind of deserves it.
Well,
I'm like, vindication!
It's like your whole family is...
I was about to say, this is about the Thanksgiving. We are recording this around Thanksgiving time, and Thanksgiving is the holiday for people, for friends and family to bicker and fight with each other, right? I thought, is that the
people
reason
say
why
that,
we have
but
Thanksgiving?
I don't know. Maybe I'm just lucky. My family gets along pretty well. We've never really fought at holidays, I guess.
But that's the popular meme, BJ. That is the popular joke. That
oh,
the family
it is incorrect in my case. So, though, I don't know. Considering the fact that this is a version of a story which has undoubtedly been heard by everyone listening to this podcast, can we just dive straight into spoilers? Because I want to ask you guys a quasi-related question.
Why not? Yeah. So if people want to watch this, they can.
If a person does not know about the story of the Christmas Carol, then before they've listened to this podcast, then I feel very sorry for them, and they deserve every... I
think most people know the Christmas Carol, but I think a lot of people listening may not know this version of it.
Okay, okay. So this version is a Christmas Carol, but it's a musical. It follows the same plot, except for one scene added. But anyway, before I forget...
And it's very 1970s, so yeah.
So before I forget, on the subject of interactions with your family... Now, you two are married and I am not, yes?
Yes.
Confirmed.
So, would your courtship have gone any different if, while you were dating your now current wives, if the potential in-laws were kind of shadowing you guys like what happens to Scrooge and Isabel?
I have the theory that that's why things actually went south, but that's a personal pet theory. Right.
Okay. So we're talking about, and spoilers are in now, of course.
Yes, we are.
Yes,
we're going to spoil the heck out of A Christmas Carol, a story we have already established to be almost 180 years old. Probably by the time you listen to this podcast, it is going to be 180 years old. Let me check the date on that.
There are several sequences in this movie that are not in the original story.
Actually, we planned this pretty good. This podcast
planned
is going to...
something? What?
Well, but purely by accident. So, Christmas Carol was originally published on December 19th, 1943. This podcast is going to be published December 19th of 2023. So, exactly on the 180-year anniversary.
Oh.
Hooray!
We are good on accident. Go us.
Good on accident. Yay for random events that make us look like...
Hey, do you think that means the algorithm will bless this one like it's blessed certain other episodes of this podcast?
I mean, I don't know if this particular version is going to be, like, as Search says, say, It's One for Life, which is still our most viewed episode. And, to be fair, if we're going purely off holiday stuff, like, I think the Star Wars holiday special is, like, still below 50, and I think a few of those is us, because I enjoy going in there and listening to me and Jeff be all kinds of incredulous about the stuff that happens in that. It's fun to go back and listen to, because it's more fun to watch that than it was to watch the actual holiday special.
All right.
Yeah.
But, so back to this Isabel thing, right?
Yes.
So Isabel...
To the Fezziwigs.
And Scrooge are... Ebenezer and Isabel are courting each other, and the Fezziwigs are following them constantly.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the question is would
that makes sense for people of upper middle class at the time, right? And that was very much the done thing. Anytime the men and the women were with each other, there was always someone watching.
Yeah, having a chaperone was normal in the 1800s. It was normal a long time ago, but this movie was in the 1970s, and it was not normal to have a chaperone.
I think in the 1970s played up.
It is a period
comedic, comedic effort or whatever.
Okay, was it comedic? It comedic?
It was actually comedic. It was kind of funny.
Was it intended to be comedic?
Yes, I think so.
Yes. It was kind
you
of
really think that
making
they wrote it
those
so that
social norms
he was
of yesteryear.
Yes, I'm pretty sure they wrote to be funny because there's a scene where they're riding the carriage and Scrooge kind of smiles at Isabel and he stops and looks over his shoulder and does their fezziwigs behind him. And then they get on the boat and then the fezziwigs are like, yoo-hoo, we're here. And then they're at the tree and they're like snuggling by the tree and Scrooge looks over and the fezziwigs are on the other side of the tree. They both fell asleep. I'm almost positive it was played up for comedy.
Yeah.
Okay, because I don't read it that way when I see it. I just think they just threw this in for some reason. And the way that he looks on his face, it's almost like it wasn't really planned somehow. I don't know. It seems very B-movie to me.
On the other hand,
it's funny on levels it wasn't intended to be.
On the other hand, BJ, I don't know if you knew this, that courtship had very specific rules from, back in the time that they were talking about. And Scrooge would have been, the Fezziwigs or society as a whole would have been very scandalized by the actions taken by Scrooge in this movie, in that he put a ring on the young lady's finger, and that's it. There was no ceremony. The betrothal ceremony is probably as complicated and meaningful as the marriage ceremony, right?
Well, they were operating off of musical logic, They were.
Yeah, they were.
They were mid-musical number, so,
He didn't even ask. He just was like, okay, ring on the finger. But this is what you do now.
But on the other hand, as soon as a young couple is engaged to be married, that they are betrothed, basically the family members, the serious dating would then take place, and the guardians, the people keeping an eye on them would basically go away and leave the young couple to do whatever they wanted to do. Basically because it was understood that they're pretty much married at that point. They just haven't gone through the official ceremony yet.
Mm-hmm.
Betrothal ceremony is kind of where they get all the business stuff done and out of the way. The marriage ceremony is where
negotiate how many cows to trade.
Yeah, pretty much. That's the betrothal ceremony. The marriage ceremony, that's just for religious purposes and whatever reason.
So, Jeff, considering the fact you did not find the situation humorous at all, I am going to assume that your courtship would have gone very differently if the in-laws had been following you around.
Yeah, the whole thing is creepy. You go somewhere and they're there, and it's like they're following. It's not just that they're there. It's that they're in hot pursuit anywhere that you go. You get in a wagon, you try to go down the road, they're following. You get in a boat, so you can go out to sea and get away from them. Nope, they're on.
You do understand the concept of a chaperone, right, Jeff?
I do.
They're not very good at chaperoning if you can get away.
Yes, that is true. And...
Okay, I didn't mean to traumatize Jeff, so let's move on.
Whatever. No, okay, yes, it would be hard if you were dating and their parents are always there. And the tricky thing is that you kind of have to, you got to set a good impression at the same time. So in that situation, if he really likes her, he's probably just going to put up with through the whole event.
I mean, he kind of has to, because not only is he courting his daughter, he's employed by them.
Well,
yeah.
BJ, he is employed by them. You are completely correct in that. But to be employed with him in his current location, especially, given time, given location, given society, he would have been someone who was a known quantity, and most likely to have access to Mr. Fezziwig's daughter, to have her being at the party with him. Basically, Mr. Fezziwig probably had her, placed her at that party, if not Miss Fezziwig placed her at that party, so that she would, know these young men who were probably being primed to take over Mr. Fezziwig's business, right? He wanted someone to pass the torch to, and the best way to pass the torch would have been, the enterprising young man who is the most capable, and has, courted the daughter the most successfully, and blah blah blah.
Okay, so I have committed the cardinal sin of taking things out of order. I have encouraged Gary to go on a historical tangent before we establish our feelings on the movie. So, gentlemen, what is your feelings on the movie?
Okay, I can go
rest
first.
with silence.
Yeah, you go.
So, I really love the story, The Christmas Carol. I'm actually a big fan of it. There are many different versions.
Don't pull any punches, Jeff. Just cut straight to the chase. You don't have to cushion the blow for me.
Cushion the blow. You're right. Okay. This version is not a version I take as seriously as the other versions of The Christmas Carol. But at the same token, I mean, the music is funny-ish. It has the real core themes of the Christmas Carol, so you get all of the fun things that Charles Dickens originally put into it. All the life lessons and the important highs and lows, the scary moments, the happy moments. The Christmas Carol is a really tremendous story. And then this version of it is not the version you would play for a group of people if you really wanted a serious, you really wanted to get into this story seriously. There's one, what's his name? I forget his name the same guy who was in The Changeling. He did a version of The Christmas Carol. Was it George C. Scott?
Yes.
I want to say yes. So
that's the guy in Changing, at least.
Yeah, so I actually like his version the best. Patrick Stewart does a version that's very close to the book, and that's excellent. So if you want to really seriously watch it, then watch one of those. Or if you have kids, then there's so many kid versions. There's a Disney version that's good, and the Muppet version is a classic. This one is if you just want to laugh at the Christmas Carol and enjoy. You still get the real theme of the Christmas Carol, but let's be honest, the music in this, when he goes around singing "I hate people," yeah, it's funny on a certain level.
I've worked retail for a very long time. As mentioned, we are recording this shortly after Thanksgiving, so I just went through Black Friday. I feel I hate people on a spiritual level sometimes.
I would have that song as a reach. I'm
there at work. I'm like, I hate people. I loathe people.
I'd almost want that as a ringtone on my phone if I could. But it would go off and people would just look at me like, why do you hate people?
Sadly enough, the soundtrack of this movie is not available anywhere. Apparently, there is some legal dispute over the soundtrack, so it has never been re-released, which explains why my family's never been able to find it.
So,
Gary.
Okay. I like this movie, but
you like it because I think I just said that I didn't so much like it. But then I enjoy watching it, which is a different sort of view.
I'm going to put a caveat on this, BJ. I like this movie.
Asterisk on his enjoyment of Scrooge.
I'm going to put an asterisk on this. I like this movie, right? There's a story we've already established through sarcasm and various assorted remarks, the fact that we all feel that the Christmas Carol story is a very, very good story, right?
Yes.
180 years, one could almost say it's timeless, but it's not, because it's only 180 years so far. Give it another 180 years, maybe it will have been replaced by something better. Who knows?
Okay, so let's all reconvene 180 years from now. We'll talk about it.
Having said that, it's a very good story.
Yeah, our zombies will get together.
Definitely captures
have another review.
It definitely captures the concept of what we feel is a good Christmas, right? So this is a very good Christmas story. So the bones are already there, right?
Okay,
All
what's
these
the but,
people
Gary?
had to do was not screw up the delivery, and they did not screw up the delivery. They made a few
Okay, what's the but?
they made a few good songs to go along with it. And that's nice and original, but apart from that, all the lines, everything all still feels the same. Like you've watched so many different versions of this story, and they all start to blend together. Not that they're bad to be watching this time of year, not that they're bad to be watching at any given time, right? It's
I feel like
good
this is a very
story.
long preamble to the but.
No, that's my butt. It's not.
Oh, that's right.
It's really hard to screw up. It's like pizza, right? Everybody likes pizza. All you have to do is just not screw it up, and then you've made a good pizza, right? The basic ingredients are there: dough, sauce, toppings, cheese. All right?
Pineapple.
Yeah. Okay? Just don't screw
not
it
a
up while you're
controversial
making it, and you'll make a decent one, and everybody's going to enjoy it. It's kind of hard to screw up Christmas Carol, a movie, and these guys didn't. So there's that.
Have either of you ever had anchovy pizza?
No.
Have you ever had a
No.
pizza with anchovies on it?
No, but I'm not terribly fond of fish in the first place.
I don't really. I mean, I've had some weird things on pizzas, and they've worked, but I don't know about.
So I had an anchovy pizza once, and it was
Bully for you.
Yeah, whoopee for me. But it was the weirdest thing. It's like somebody took fish out of a fish tank, fried them up, and then laid them all over the pizza.
Anchovies are in fact fish, Jeff.
Yeah, it turns out they are, and they're very salty fish. It was weird.
Good. Anyway, Gary, you're saying, or
so yeah, it's hard to screw this movie up, and they didn't. I mean, they did do a few original things. I don't know that. You're saying that there's some original sequences. Is it the hell sequence?
Yes, the scene where Scrooge goes to hell is not in.
No, that's not in the
original book.
Now, having said that, no, Alec McGuinness. There's something I very much
McGuinness
appreciate.
or Alec Guinness?
It's just Alec Guinness, Gary. There's no McGuinness.
You turned him Scottish.
Sorry,
McGuinness.
Alec Guinness. Sorry,
I'm
I thought there was a Mech in there. There's not. Alec Guinness, right?
Yes.
Upon review watching this, now that I'm much older, I feel like he was having the time of his life in this particular one.
Really? Because I honestly think the opposite.
But he looked like he was enjoying the camp. Know what I mean?
I completely saw it differently.
No,
I honestly think Alec Guinness had the part, and I like to imagine him complaining about almost everything behind the scenes and just having to do it the best he could. Like because in this, in order to make him appear ghost-like, he just has to kind of do it on his own. There's no they can lift people and move them around the set. They have cords, and there's several scenes where they make people float, but for whatever reason, they didn't let him float into the room. He had to act like he floated, walking in a ghost-like way.
So in the book, it describes Marley as appearing to be moved by every breeze and stuff. So that's what's going on there, I think.
Right, but he had to do it all on his own. There was no special effects to help him.
Okay, so after all this time, we have found a movie where Jeff's finally complained that there's not enough special effects.
Yes, I really think they
after
could
all
have used
this time,
some cables
just
or
you know
something.
What they could have done here? They could have used more CGI. They could have done more wire work, even though he said in the previous episode he didn't like wire work in Japanese, or not Japanese, and Chinese martial arts movies and everything. We have found a movie where Jeff's like, you know what, this movie's missing? More special effects.
Yeah, well, it is missing more special effects. It is missing. Well, the thing is Alec Guinness, I don't know,
No,
I honestly, we don't know what he was like behind this camera, but I almost think that he was looking at the script and just was thinking, I gotta get through this. This is silly.
I'm fully on board with Gary here. I'm definitely getting more of the vibe that he was just having a gay old time, especially with the add-on scene in Hell where he's just totally razzing Scrooge. He is clearly just having a hoot and a holler.
Yeah, he probably did have more fun with that one.
He walks in and he says, they had to they had to hire extra demons for your chain, or
I heard you were coming down today, so I decided to come greet you, show you to your room, because no one else wanted to.
The mockery against Scrooge
Satan put
is funny
all the cold in this
movie.
room just for you. Mind the rats.
You'll be the only man in hell who's chilly.
No,
Yeah.
you're picking it up, BJ. You were picking that up too.
Yes. Jeff is over here trying to.
Trying.
So, in case it hasn't been abundantly clear, I greatly enjoy this version of A Christmas Carol. This is maybe the movie I've seen most in my lifetime.
You really?
Yes.
Wow.
Because I have seen this movie almost every year of my life, if not more than once a year, because this is one of my parents' favorite Christmas movies. So I have seen this movie at least once a year my entire life.
Yes, Jeff. For you, it's Star Trek, the original motion picture. For me, it's Dune. And for BJ, it's Scrooge the musical. That speaks volumes about us, each individually.
I've been both kind of looking forward to and kind of dreading this episode because I knew these two did not enjoy this version of this movie as much as I did. I made you guys watch it a few years ago and got mixed results.
Well, it's entertaining. Like, I watch it, and I own a copy of it, and I watch it as often as people want, but it doesn't occupy the same position for me as what it might for you. Because for me, I watch it because I want to laugh all the way through it.
They didn't have, well, yes. I mean, and?
And
did they not
what
have,
else is there?
Like, did they not have, like, enough establishing shots for you or something like that?
Well, it's just like, if there was an English teacher who was teaching the Christmas Carol to their class, would they choose this version? No. They would probably choose the Patrick Stewart version to show on one of their class, times together, whatever. They would show that in their class. They wouldn't show this. But this is a completely unique Christmas Carol that is long. It's an hour plus. It's almost like hour and 50 minutes, right?
It's over an hour long.
I know.
What version of A Christmas Carol would be over an hour long?
Well, to be honest, not very many of them are more than an hour. They're usually...
What are you talking about?
I'm saying it. I don't think most Christmas Carol versions are that long. This one is longer than most of them. I want to say like the Patrick Stewart one's only about an hour.
Okay.
Well,
anyway.
Let me pause it because Jeff, you keep going back to like more accurate being Patrick Stewart, and you say it's unique. But let me posit that it's not completely unique in that there exists a second musical version of this story. I am, of course, talking about the Muppets version of this story. Muppets Christmas Carol. Which I've presented that to, and for whatever reason, BJ, you seem to think it's heretical.
What? No, I don't. Muppets Christmas Carol is amazing.
At least,
apparently we don't know what each other thinks most of the time.
At least when I presented, well, okay, so maybe neither one of, in my opinion, neither one of those two is exceptionally exceeds the other. Well, I can understand this one is.
Yeah, I think the discussion may have been along the lines of whether or not the Muppets Christmas Carol is the best version.
Yes. Now, I would say that it's
maybe I may disagree, but to say that Muppets Christmas Carol is bad is now that's heresy.
No.
Muppets Christmas Carol is like The Princess Bride. I know nobody who doesn't like Muppets Christmas Carol.
Yeah, I don't think I know anyone either who would outrightly not watch it. Or no, there's a lot of people who wouldn't watch it.
So maybe that was where I was getting the misimpression, because I do think you think this version is better than the Muppets Christmas Carol, but the Muppets Christmas Carol.
Oh, now that's a question. Is it better? Okay.
I have not watched Muppets Christmas Carol this year, so I don't know, but it's close. They are, in my mind, they are in the top 3, if not the top 2. I don't know what the other top one would be.
Okay, I'd have to say the Muppets Christmas Carol is way better as far as entertaining. But this version of the Christmas Carol the one we're talking about, it has a campy charm to it that no other version has. That is not bad. It's good. I'm glad they made it. I'm glad we enjoy it. But it just doesn't occupy the same sphere that the Muppets Christmas Carol, which would be legitimately entertaining in every way.
So, Jeff, the Patrick Stewart of A Christmas Carol is 95 minutes, so it's well over an hour.
All right.
It's
Something like that.
You can't just show up here and be like, well, every version of A Christmas Carol is under an hour. I'm like, no. The only one I can think of is like the Mickey Christmas Carol, and that's like 20 minutes or something.
Yeah, that one's really...
Plus the Patrick Stewart one was made for TV, so if anything was going to be less than an hour, it'd be that one. Anyway,
Yeah, so the George C. Scott is the best one, I think. But if you just wanted to get together with a group of friends and watch something, this might be the better one to watch. Because I think you'll enjoy the Christmas Carol story. No, well, it depends on the crowd. It depends on the group you're with.
Oh,
if they're a bunch of friends and you like Godzilla movies, you're more likely to like this one because campy is good.
Jeff,
it's a little crazy.
I will push
as a
back.
Christmas present myself. I wasn't even going to try to be nice to Jeff Day, and he's just making it so easy.
I will push back on you, saying that this might be something to watch with friends. It took me, so benefit of internet, right? You can find anything and everything streaming on various and assorted streaming services, right? It took me forever to find this movie, BJ. I mean, forever. There's so many versions of the Christmas Carol, and I'm looking up musical Christmas carols. I'm looking up everything, and it was just so hard to find it. That's why I texted you and said, "Okay, when was this movie made?" Because I had to like try to narrow it down, and I was looking for it, and my wife was like, "Are you sure you've got the right one?" And I'm like, "No," trying to find it. It was so difficult. But yeah,
I know you might have ended up watching the wrong one.
No, I watched the right one. Don't worry. Yeah. Alec Guinness, Mr. Marley with the weird chains, and yes, he had to float in weird ways. And what's his bucket, who was playing both the younger version of Scrooge and the older version of Scrooge.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I just went on YouTube, typed in Albert Finney Scrooge, and it's the first thing.
So we watched this as a group of friends years ago, and I think it honestly changed the way that we exit rooms, at least for a little while, because for a while after watching
try to do the hand thing out the door.
We do the hand wave, the thing that Alec Guinness does, or Jacob Marley, in other words. He slides out the door slowly and just has this little hand wave that just snakes his way out. There's a lot of things that
it's probably
he does.
Easier to do as a ghost, and if you don't have friends like us, that would like try to run up and like kick the door closed as it's closing.
Okay, I have something astounding to tell you guys. So, I was watching this yesterday and I decided, you know what, the book isn't that long and I haven't ever read it. So I then attempted to read it all in one sitting, and I managed to do it in 2 sittings. And I read the entire book just because I wanted to know what scenes were included in the movie.
Okay, hey, we're going to mark it down on your calendars. If you watched this last night, then November 25th, Jeff read a book. Mark down your calendars.
Jeff actually
this is a rare.
Jeff actually knows how to read, or at least
at least I can claim to. But there's no milk of human kindness in the book. I didn't see any of that. Which is one of the funniest parts of this movie is the milk of human kindness. And I guess it's not in any other versions.
Oh, they have in the book. There's they have the Ghost of Christmas Present has some kind of like seasoning or something that he sprinkles on the food of poor people.
He does sprinkle something on that like gives them better cheer or something.
But no, the Ghost of Christmas Present does not get Scrooge drunk, and he also does not dunk on Scrooge nearly as often as this Ghost of Christmas Present does.
Which is really funny. It's really funny in this movie. Then they also do a lot more work in this movie to establish Scrooge in his economic relationship with the community. Other versions don't do that. This is the only one I think that really dives in deep to that, where they have this whole sequence where he visits all these people and they show how he is a creditor who is not merciful in an economic downturn. Everyone is struggling to make ends meet, and Scrooge has no mercy for anyone. So they show all that.
It's like, to a certain extent, yeah, Scrooge is being pretty ruthless, but then during the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come part, and they show all the people who owe a debt to him celebrating. But Scrooge has this bad of reputation. Why is like half the town going to him for money? Like a literal street load of people have gone to this guy who is known to be the evil, like how do they phrase it in the book? He's like a hand grasping at the grindstone, a churning whatever hand at the grindstone. He has this horrible reputation, but still everyone in town goes to him to borrow money.
Well,
he probably is one of the only people with money. It could be that.
He understands how money works and how tightly you're supposed to squeeze people to get money out of them, and thus be able to loan to other people so that they can propel their businesses forward. He forgot the second part of it, though, in which one needs to be merciful and charitable, because the entire point of earning that kind of money is so that you can do good things with it, as many people through history have come to understand, right?
Well, and that's something as we have
established in our what's it called? It's a Wonderful Life episode. Scrooge is not George Bailey.
No,
George Bailey's very different. Yeah, Scrooge. But I feel like Scrooge, just to show a little bit about why he became what he is, Scrooge is afraid of being poor. He takes it too far, and it's almost like he enjoys being rich and being superior to others in some way, and that they like that, but also I think he has like a fear of being poor, and that's one of the things that drives him, and he doesn't understand why other people are wasting away their time. They should try every day to get themselves not poor, even if it meant grueling and
he says
awful
it in,
day in
he says
day
it
out
in the
work.
movie that there's how's he phrase it? There's nothing harder in the world than being poor, but there's nothing that the world looks down on more than than trying to get money. Well, paraphrasing that, of course.
Yeah.
And Jeff, you also look at the state that he's in the movie, where he's got, in theory he's got all this money, but does he spend it on himself? He doesn't. He doesn't even spend it on himself. He spends it on other. Like, he doesn't even spend it on any other people. It just kind of sits there in a pile underneath him.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, he has kind of a nice house that is very empty. I think it's like a large apartment.
The upkeep complex. It's not being upkept at all. Right.
No, it's not.
The linens aren't. The linens aren't very well washed. The curtains are all raggedy. He barely buys enough fuel to generate a little bit of warmth and
it's big and empty. So it's big and expensive, yet it's totally empty, and he's alone in it. Yeah.
He doesn't spend money on even himself, right? He just has money to have for the purpose of having money, which is kind of, I think one of those things that the original story was talking about, where you have to understand why you would earn the money, that being to, help other people and also help yourself. You can't just have money.
So this leads to a long-standing question, a long-standing tradition here on the podcast. Since Scrooge is haunted in his house, it is technically a haunted house. Gentlemen, would you live in Scrooge's house?
No.
Jeff?
There's not enough
Yeah, and
cleaning
these
in the
ghosts
world,
are actually
Jeff.
pretty nice. They're not all that bad.
Did you see the giant smoke stains right in front of the fireplace? There is some major problems going with the air circulation in that room.
He needs his chimney cleaned.
Well,
yeah, his chimney is clogged
I don't
or
think
something.
I don't
Needs
think
a little
it was
chimney sweeper
right in the first place. That's some serious carbon monoxide. Is it carbon monoxide or carbon dioxide? I don't know. Some sort of carbon poisoning he's going to be getting within the next little bit because he left a fire on for too long. And
I don't know. Yeah, I would think that would be fixable, but I think it's not that his place is a bad place. It's that Scrooge is alone in it, and there's cobwebs everywhere because he spends all his time at his counting house, and he comes home to an empty home. So I think it's not the place. He just doesn't have anything really in his life that really is a goal like you would think, like Bob Cratchit has. He has a family, or at least friends. Like his nephew has all these friends that he invites over, and they have big parties.
Yeah,
they have these other homes that are filled. They may not be as lavish as his house, but they're not cold and dark. They're warm and friendly. And yeah.
And that might have been a trick of the movie director and the set designer trying to show us, because movies are all about showing you instead of telling you. They're not supposed to tell you that he's miserable. They're supposed to show you he's miserable. Right. And what's better way to show a person who's rich being miserable other than to show them in this place that could be nice but is absolutely miserable because they've just let it go because of being miserly or whatever.
Well, that and having his first song be about how much he hates people.
There is that.
What is your favorite song? Is it I Hate People? Is that true of everyone? Does everyone have the same thing?
I
like most of the songs, really.
Yeah, just because I work retail, I Hate People's the one I feel the most often. But like when I was watching it last night, probably the one I enjoyed the most is probably I Like Life, which is sort of the reprise of I Hate People, the other side of the coin of I Hate People.
Mm-hmm. I personally like Thank You Very Much. That's my personal...
Do you like the first one, or or what's it called, the reprise?
Well, I appreciate the first one because it's an absolute deserved punctuation mark on the kind of life he would have led up to the point to deserve that kind of funeral, right?
Yeah, so just to give people context who have not seen this movie, so during his experience with the Ghost of Christmas
Present,
Christmas
future.
Yet to Come,
Christmas Future,
Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come, he goes to the future, and they're outside his office. There's this big crowd saying how they're just saying how in all their long years with their experience with Scrooge, he has done this one thing that has made all of them so happy. And Scrooge gets up on the stage, even though they can't see him. He turns around, he's all talking to them, and as he's giving them this big speech that they can't even hear, they bring a coffin out of the office and they throw the coffin. It's like not even a hearse, it's like a little pack wagon, and they start singing the song about how Scrooge dying is the nicest thing that anyone's ever done for them, and they're literally dancing on this coffin as they car him away.
Which, given if Scrooge had not changed, that would have been absolutely deserved punctuation mark, exclamation mark at the end of his life, right? To be an absolute, tight-fisted miser the entire course of his life and make all those people's lives absolutely miserable, and then at the end, him dying, and they've managed to finally escape his brand of indebtedness. Though I doubt it, given the way businesses actually work, they probably wouldn't have escaped debt. It probably would have been, all the debts would have been to the company he was representing, and therefore being picked up by the next board member. But that's a bit of nitpicking or whatever.
Yeah, in the book there's not a musical number, but the Scrooge and the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come do watch some people who are in debt to Scrooge, and they have some joy at Scrooge passing, because in the time it will take for Scrooge's debts to pass on to someone else, they should be able to earn enough money to pay it off.
They all expect that perhaps someone else will take the debt, or maybe it'll be forgotten, but they don't really know.
Yeah.
And I feel like in the book, it doesn't go through as much detail about all the people he helps, but it does indicate he gives his Clark some extra money. And
but then in the reprisal of the song later, being because he ends up becoming a good person, and then people are genuinely find joy in his redemption, which is a celebration of the fact, right?
And some people people laugh at him. Some people are just astounded that he changed suddenly. Other people laugh and think it's strange and may even mock him a little bit. And then it comments how about Scrooge just doesn't care about any of that. He laughs himself in a way about how things have changed, and he just takes joy in everything.
Well, they go to like Bob Cratchit's house, and by this time he's on like a Santa Claus costume and has like the beard on and everything. So when they first go to the Cratchit's house, they don't really recognize him, and then he like reveals himself, and Mr. Cratchit's like, "It's Mr. Scrooge, he's gone mad." And Bob Cratchit's like, "No, calm down, my dear." He's like, "And when you go back to work on Monday, when I double your pay, what? He is mad."
Yeah, he does prank him in the book, but he does it like later on the next day, I think.
Yeah,
he
in the
pranks
book,
him when he first comes. Yeah,
in the book he goes to work super early so that he can catch Bob Cratchit, who will inevitably come in late because he was enjoying his celebration a bit too much. So he acts like he's gonna rip Cratchit a new one, but then he does the classic, well, and then Bob Cratchit, I'm gonna raise your pay, I'm gonna help your family and find doctors for Tiny Tim and all that.
It's funny. This was written in 1840s, and it has that joke in it. I just think it's interesting. One of the big things that I thought of reading the book as well is that all of Charles Dickens' books, his other books, seem like really hard to read and cold, and this book is funny and quirky, and it's very different than other books. And I do read some Jules Verne books, which are very much more cold and to the point, don't exaggerate much. And this one is goofy. Like the first opening page, it's like Jacob Marley was as dead as a doornail. And so it has all these whimsical things in it.
Yeah, it goes off on a tangent about how the narrator doesn't think that a doornail is the most dead piece of ironmongery or whatever, something like that.
He's goofy. Charles Dickens was goofy when he wrote this, and it makes it into an amazing book. And I just thought that was weird, how his other books are so different than this. This is obviously not about the book. I just thought it was weird.
I will admit I have not tried to read any other books.
I try to read them, but I usually put them down after a while because I can't get through them. Not that he's a bad author. It's just that obviously my reading attention span doesn't work, except for The Christmas Carol was a really good story.
And as I think I've mentioned this before, I have trouble going back trying to read the classics. I also have a handful of books, and this being one of them. This is one of the 2 books I read every year.
Oh.
Anyway, Gary, I feel like you're going to say something, and then we cut you off.
No.
Am I wrong?
Okay. I just letting you guys go at that point. Whatever thought I would have had probably is just lost at this point.
We killed it.
Yes,
It's dead as a coffin now.
It's
dead as a doornail.
It's lost. Oh.
There's more of a grave than of a grave about Gary's last thought.
Oh. So
we can't... Go ahead.
So I was gonna say, I will confess something at this point. I will make the honest confession of I don't think that I've ever actually sat down and read this story. I know it's not a very long book. I've read lots of books, but I don't know that I've ever read this book.
It's not nearly long enough to catch Gary's attention.
It's weird because there's so many movies about this, and there's plays, and it's like you know the story inside and out. And when I finally read it, it was weird because everything was kind of in there, and there's a few things.
But even if I had read it, it would have been so long ago that I can't remember anything. Yeah. So I'm going to ask you guys. So what characters in this one you were new and unique? I'm guessing. So there's Scrooge, right? Was there what's her name? Lady. What's her name?
There's Isabel.
Isabel.
Girl he was going to marry.
Yeah, she's not really a character in the book to my recollection. Is it the Ghost of Christmas Present during that? They go see her and she's married to someone else that has a kid, and they kind of mention in passing that her husband is like, oh, guess who I saw your old friend Ebenezer Scrooge today, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, none of the Christmas Carol movies, to my recollection, go talk about Isabel after she dumps Scrooge, after they separate. But apparently in the book she goes on, she has a family because of course, and he's just like a past, like some sort of distant memory in her past. Like her husband mentions Scrooge, that he saw him, but it's not even a big part of the conversation, and they move on. And Scrooge sees that, not only did he miss his chance with her, but like she moved on and she took a different path.
So, but who else is there in? Who else was in this story that was not in?
Not anyone really. By and large, the Christmas Carols movies are pretty faithful to the book because the book is not terribly long.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all of the townspeople are added in, right?
So the soup seller, the wine seller, the lady who sold used clothing, all of those people were
like a lot of the incidental characters aren't named in the book. There's no Tom Jenkins in the book or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, the two charitable men, I think they are in the book, right?
Yeah, they are.
They're in the book.
The two charity guys.
Though in the book, they encounter Scrooge when he's selling his counting house rather than on the street.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have that conversation on the street, which I guess is great when because it's in a movie, you want your characters to move around and have something to do besides just stand and look at each other and talk. So I could see why they would want that scene to be over the street, and then he can walk across the bridge and throw down his cane. It adds some things to it.
I wish to be left alone.
Yeah.
I feel that sometimes.
I wish to be left alone. You wish to be left anonymous. I wish to be left alone.
So young BJ would have felt a lot more closer to a Bob Cratchit or a Tiny Tim, but an older BJ feels a lot closer to Scrooge pre-ghosts, right?
I mean, let's all be honest here. Kind of the older we get, the more we
want to say, get off my lawn.
We kind of identify with Scrooge in some points.
And I kind of understand
we're not all the way there
of
with Scrooge, but
I kind of understand the more I grow up and understand finances, the more I understand that as I've watched this movie, that the people got themselves into this situation, that they got themselves into this debt. Yes, this is speaking as a person who is in major debt myself.
Yeah,
house payments do a thing to you, right? But but I got myself into this debt knowing full well the consequences of it, right? So that's the kind of thing.
Well,
that's the kind of thing.
Here's another thing, though. This is a book about the 1800s. This movie's about the 1800s, which is not the same as the 21st century. I honestly think, this is my opinion talking, Mr. Opinion here, but I think we have it way better today than people did 200 years ago in terms of like fairness and opportunity.
There's laws in place there's laws in place these days about people who've gone into debt and how bad a creditor can squeeze them, right? At worst, a person these days will get what's the word? They'll file bankruptcy. That's it, right? They'll file bankruptcy,
which is not like an end of everything.
Ruined, no one will
it's
ever
bad.
Get money ever again, but that's it, right? You're not going to get sent to full-on debtor's prison, which is what people would get sent to over like $10 worth of debt. That's what would happen to them previously. They'd be in debt for like $10 and they'd be sent to debtor's prison if they couldn't pay, right?
Well, and things were just more harsh back then during the Charles Dickens times because, I mean, like they had workhouses, which from what I know about them, they were really awful. Like they would work all the time and they would be fed whenever they decided to feed them and they couldn't leave. It was like a prison. You couldn't just walk out the door.
And then the money,
at least that's what I understand.
The money you made from it wouldn't go to you. It would go to whoever your debtor was. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
So on an entirely less serious side note, kind of going back to Gary said about identifying more with Bob Cratchit than Tiny Tim when I was younger. Maybe this was just a my family thing, but me and my siblings always refer to the Tiny Tim part, like where you start saying that was the boring part for us.
Yeah. Children singing really doesn't ever do it for me. It's kind of annoying and either too soft and whiny or too screechy and whiny. I understand, BJ. I understand.
So, though I will say, I think we kind of talked about like inside jokes during Rudolph. I think it was like me and my sisters, like all we have to do to crack each other up is, especially this time of year, is how we look at each other and just go, "Hark the herald angels sing."
Can I just say that? Okay, we know Scrooge is a bad guy, but if you were chased around by children and like, "Hey, governor," and then they keep singing at your face, and like you walk through an alley and they're there at the end of the alley, I mean, is he 100% blamed for his grumpiness at that point?
It's musical log, Jeff. Stuff that goes on during a musical number does not have to be logical.
Well,
that's right.
Historically, there were always fools, right? And a person who didn't get the joke and were excessively angry, if not violent, towards the fool, were generally looked down upon by society. So that's what these kids were doing. They were just being foolish, and Scrooge was either supposed to either accept it or, just accept it or just leave them, and eventually they would go find a new target, which is what they eventually did because, he found his way home and closed the door, and you can't make fun of a door. Though that one was kind of creepy.
So what you're saying is that next time me and Jeff see you, we just get that we should just kind of follow you around and annoy you, and if you retaliate, that's politically incorrect? Or at least it would have been the way back when?
It would have been.
Take notes, Jeff, take notes.
Modern day time, apparently, you are allowed to even legally prosecute the fool, but that is an entirely different conversation for a different day.
Well, we just
okay.
You stick a camera around, but it's just a prank, bro. But anyway,
yeah.
Anyway, diverting from that topic.
Yeah, that is unique to this version of Scrooge is that the children run around making fun of him and they steal his hat. And I think in other versions, children are more terrified of him. Like he shows up when they're, I know in other versions, he will open the door when they're singing a Christmas carol and they'll just scatter. They had no idea that such a monstrous, grumpy man who's towering over them is there.
Oh,
but in this version, they make fun of him. They walk around the town.
When you compare, what's his name? This actor's name, Michael Finney?
Albert Finney.
Albert Finney?
Yes, Albert Finney.
Well, you compare Albert Finney to Patrick Stewart or Michael Caine. Both of those people are a lot more imposing in my particular opinion. Right? Patrick Stewart and Michael Caine are two much more imposing gentlemen. When they want to be, they can be very stern.
Wasn't that actor Daddy Warbucks in Annie? I want to say that's the same guy.
Albert Finney?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
It was from real quick.
Anyway, yeah, he's been in a few things.
He's Daddy Warbucks and Annie.
Yeah, it's weird. He's younger and he tries to look older, which almost makes every scene a little more funny and interesting because he doesn't obviously to me look like an older guy. He's just a younger actor hunched up, and he makes his jaw a little crooked.
Well, if I may confess something here, and I believe this was the case for most of my siblings as well. So I grew up with this movie. I think it was only it's been less than a decade, and we all realized that, wait a second, the guy who plays Old Scrooge and Young Scrooge is the same person, just Old Scrooge in makeup. We did not know that, so I apologize if you thought it was blaringly obvious, but I didn't realize that until after many, many years of watching this movie.
It was the jaw that got me, because I was like, what the heck is up with this guy's jaw? And then I was like, oh, wait, it's a young man trying to be an old man. I get that. Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. I was gonna. Oh, go ahead, Gary. Go ahead.
I'm looking up because I said that thing a second ago about people being imposing. I was trying to think of who's probably the most imposing actor, and Christopher Lee, in my particular opinion, probably would have been the most imposing actor, at least in his time.
Are we just talking about actors in general, or people that play Scrooge?
Did Christopher Lee ever play Scrooge? I'm sure on the stage as something.
Not that I'm aware of, but that would have been awesome.
That's the one Scrooge I don't know if people would have believed the redemption part. It would have been.
Now I'm just laughing because what crap? What's his name? Because every time we talk about who would have been good in this part, I just think of our default.
Charlton Heston.
Charlton Heston, yes.
Charlton Heston as Scrooge.
Was Charlton Heston ever Scrooge?
No, but he should have been.
That would have been awesome.
Oh no, the internet dreams of a Christopher Lee Scrooge, but nobody ever quite did it. So,
Spirit.
Bah humbug.
Bah humbug.
Oh, he would have. Bah humbug, and you would have been like, "Oh gosh, he just murdered Santa, didn't he?"
I blame high school English for our eternal mirth at the thought of Charlton Heston in any role.
Yeah, since he read
Old Man in the Sea.
Old Man in the Sea. Yeah, we listened to the audio recording.
Is that the one where you guys
listening to Charlton Heston
read beats the shark to death
several hours? You just never forget it.
Yes, that's where. I wish I had the boy with me. I would be able to pick him by the ankle, use it as a club against the sharks. Yeah, scary. That's where that came from.
Okay.
All right, I wanted to philosophize. Are you guys ready about this movie?
All right.
Just a little bit. Okay, philosophize. So, Scrooge in this story, he's a bad guy and he becomes good, and what I think often happens is there's something called the hierarchy of values. It's where there are so many good things that it's impossible to kind of pay attention to every good thing at the same time. So you create in your mind kind of like a hierarchy where you say, well, this is the most good thing. This is also a good thing, but it's a lesser good thing. And you organize things together. And I think part of the reason of why Scrooge became Scrooge is because it's not that he was just filled with evil inside him. I mean, he was young. You saw in his past life, he was a young boy. He cared about his sister. He was a human being. But what drew him down this path is that in his hierarchy of values, he put avoiding poverty very high. He also put hard work and responsibility really high. Both of those are not negative things. They're positive things. But he put other things like celebrating at Christmas time, making time for people that you care about. He put all those so far down the list. And as time went on, it's almost like those other things became weaker and weaker. And really, his excuse to avoid poverty was so strong that eventually he just liked being rich and he liked winning and he liked accumulating power, and he saw anyone else who was different from him in his goal as evil. And I think that happens. People have different hierarchy of morals, and when your hierarchy of morals different from someone else's, there's a tendency to look down on them because they're not as superior as you are. So I think that's what happened, is that Scrooge fell into it. And this is a story about how Scrooge had to relive his life to figure out what went wrong, to figure out the twists and turns that had actually, where his hierarchy had betrayed him, where he was more obsessed with success than paying attention to Isabel, where he, all of those things had changed in him.
Well, the sort of humanized Scrooge, at least as far as, like, say, enjoying the holidays go, it is established that there's a fairly small window as to in his life where he could actually enjoy the holidays, because growing up, his father would not send for him to come home during the holidays. He would have to stay at his school alone. It wasn't until he was a older teenager, I forget exactly when they say that his dad sort of, what's the word, changed enough for him to
start to have a change of heart.
Yeah. So there's like a fairly small window where George, what?
Or Scrooge. Ebenezer.
George. Anyway. Where Scrooge had the opportunity to celebrate the holiday, that like started when his sister came to Gom and sort of probably ended sometime during his courtship with Isabel when she dumps him. So,
well, it mentions the sister. Did it talk about the sister in the book? Because it implies that she passed away, right?
Yeah.
She did, yeah.
He did.
She passed away in childbirth, giving birth to his nephew.
Okay. So I could imagine that's why he has a strained relationship with his nephew.
Yeah.
Because of that, because she probably would have been one of
part of it is that he just doesn't like family. He chose not to have family, and he feels family is unprofitable, which I kind of understand his point of view. I'm not gonna lie, but yes.
Hi, anyone just family listen to this podcast? I don't know if anyone you do, but hi. He's only kidding. He likes you guys.
Well,
thank you, BJ, for censoring me.
Speaking of family,
this is me trying to keep you guys from getting in trouble, because Gary, I know your wife listens to this.
Okay, but speaking, well,
choose your words very carefully.
Something to put me in the positive is I know that my wife took me to a play where they were talking about like the behind the scenes of Scrooge, of the story. People have looked into this. Apparently, the author was had kind of the ideas of Scrooge right before he wrote this story, right? He'd had a reasonable amount of success. Charles Dickens had a reasonable amount of success before this, and he had family members who constantly were coming to him to have him help solve their financial problems, and he would have to, deal with that. Okay, and so he didn't like that, and then he sort of came to understand that was not the right way of thinking about things. That there are more important things in life than the pursuit of more money, just to have the money sit there and be in a pile, right? That's family and love and joy. That's why he wrote this story. And why it translated so well to paper is because he took from real life experiences.
Yeah. And I feel like money is a weird concept that is often misunderstood, but money doesn't actually have any real value until you spend it. Until then, it's potential value, but it's not value.
I am drawing the lines of doing a deep dive into economics here. Come on.
Okay.
So BJ, you don't want to talk about the inner functionings of economic motions and economic machineries. You don't want to talk about that?
Like or in this our Christmas episode, we could talk about A Christmas Carol more. I don't know, call me silly.
But that's kind of one of those things that is the center focus of this story, in that you need to understand why. So Christmas is.
You're talking to nerds here, BJ.
Do we really need to understand the concept of value and potential versus actual value, and whether or not the gold standard, et cetera, whatever? No.
Okay, well, Scrooge didn't understand it. That's what I'd say. He didn't understand it because he thought that money was how you gain happiness and wealth. But wealth is a weird concept. It's not how many, Spanish doubloons you have. It's more than that. It's the things that you have.
If you want to get into the concept of wealth, you can go back and listen to our episode Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, where Jeff philosophizes about the song Silver and Gold for like 10 minutes.
But
yeah,
but the entire point of having, so his nephew, who he says is poor, yet has finer things, right?
Yeah.
His nephew has a much nicer house, wears much nicer clothing, and by every outward and inward and also inward measure is much more well off, right? He has a lot more friends.
And he has friends everywhere.
He has a lot more friends. He has a lot more influence. He has a lot more capability because he has understood that you can't just have money and sit there, in a bank vault, right? You have to do something with it, and you need to be generous with other people. You need to, be charitable and be good. It's really hard to be charitable when you have no money. That is certainly true. But it's also equally charitable. It's also equally difficult to be charitable if you have no heart to give, right? So Scrooge had all the money in the world, and yet he never gave any of it to anybody. And so, anyways,
he never used it for a purpose.
Yeah,
he didn't. Its purpose was just to add weight onto his soul in the end.
Yeah,
and
that was amusing. Yeah. The chain that he forged in life.
Yeah.
It's even bigger than I thought it would be.
It's such a funny scene.
Oh, here it comes out.
And that's why I say, BJ, that's why I say that Alec Guinness was having a time of his life during that.
Oh yeah. No, I 100% agree with you. I do not get where Jeff is again. I think Alec Guinness was just kind of going through the motions. He was obviously having lots of fun, I think.
Yeah. That's a personal opinion, Jeff. You're entitled to your opinion as well.
Except in this case, entitled. Number 2-1, so you're wrong.
I could take on a mob. You'll never catch me alive. Or
no, it's a good movie. Gosh, it's an old story. I really genuinely feel sorry for someone whose first exposure to the Christmas Carol would be our podcast, because I don't know if that's possible.
that won't happen. No, everyone knows the story.
If they have gone to the point where, after how many years they've been alive, they're like, you know what? I've never read The Christmas Carol. I've never watched any Christmas Carol movies. Here's this podcast talking about Christmas Carol. I'm going to make this my first exposure. If they've gone to that point in their lives, it's their fault.
Yes. For that,
I wash my hands of them.
For that one person who's probably living in the year 27, whatever, and you found this on some sort of weird internet archive, and you don't know what the Christmas Carol is, go look on another internet archive and try to find it, because this is not the best representation of it. This movie is the movie we're talking about is a good representation of it, but our talking about
if the Wandering Tangent podcast outlasts A Christmas Carol, then there is really no justice in the universe.
There really isn't.
I will say that straight out.
Who knows?
No, this is a classic book. People are going to be talking about Christmas Carol, I feel like, 100 years from now. They'll still come up. I'm sure there's podcasts dedicated solely to this. If there's not, then I feel a little bit sadder in life. Just a little bit.
Well, I don't know how long a podcast could be solely dedicated to Christmas Carol, because it's not a very long book. Like Jeff read it in like a day, 2 days.
BJ,
I read it in like 3 hours, which is still long.
I'm not saying that be mean to Jeff. I'm not.
No, but
I'm saying
there's entire societies devoted to, like, entire groups of people who've dedicated their lives to the study of Sherlock Holmes. And in all honesty, there's not that many of Sherlock Holmes books out there. It's just...
Yeah, but a single Sherlock Holmes book is a lot longer than A Christmas Carol.
Was this book written for kids?
No, I don't think so.
It was written for families, right?
But
children could be involved in this book.
Like a family book as opposed to a kid's book.
Yeah, but it was written at a level that kids could follow it. And
yes.
Yeah. It's not it's not like a really complicated story. And it's easy to follow, and it's very entertaining, the whole thing. Like, there's always interesting things happening. And I think part of its success, it has this great life lesson in it that is wonderful, but also I feel like it goes from like scary to joyful and then to scary again, and it goes back and forth, because the Christmas past is very nostalgic. It's like bittersweet. Like he's warmed by these memories of his childhood, but also he feels a loss because he realizes how much tragedy there is in his childhood too. And so he feels sad, and he realizes he was once a child, and so now he has empathy for other children. He even comments, he's like, there was a boy singing in front of my house, and I wish I would have given him something. It's like the first time in the whole story that he shows empathy. The very first moment. It's during the Ghost of Christmas Past. And then after that, after all that somberness, the Ghost of Christmas Present comes, which is a very different tone. He's like jolly and joyful, and he's happy. And Scrooge is still Scrooge, but he just... and in the movie, it's funny because he makes fun of him so well. But he still has a really positive mood to him.
No, yeah, this is maybe my favorite version of the Ghost of Christmas Present.
Oh, definitely. He is the most entertaining of them all. And the Disney version was also entertaining too, the Ghost of Christmas Present. I really like that one too. But yeah, this one was good. But all these ghosts have different feelings attached to them. So you have like different emotions. You have present who is really happy and the ghost of Christmas future who is very different. He's cold. He's unchanging. When he points to something, he doesn't flinch. It has this feeling of that destiny is unchangeable. You cannot control the ghost of Christmas future. It's just there. And there's a sort of mysterious spookiness about him. So I think that's the brilliant. All these different emotions that guide the reader. You don't just feel one thing through the whole story. You feel different emotions. And it takes you on this little journey towards the end where Christmas future in like the worst possible moment where he's terrified of what will become of him, and then finally he's pulled out of it right at his worst moment. Anyway, go ahead.
No, I kind of... So everybody understands that they're going to die eventually, right? Eventually,
okay.
this
that was not where I expected this to go, but continue.
No. This
everybody
mortal
has
life will
existential dread.
but it affects Scrooge in some way. That's even more than just for whatever reason of all the things. Even knowing all those, even seeing all those people celebrating his death, does not quite affect him as much as just seeing his gravestone, right?
Well, to be fair, at least in the movie, I don't think he ever really realizes that they're celebrating his death. He never sees that they're literally dancing on his coffin or whatever. They think that he thinks that he honestly did something to make all these people happy. He doesn't realize it until he sees his own grave.
That is...
It's like that. It's hidden from him. He sees all of these things, and his question is like, what does all this mean? And that's when he finds when he's guided to the grave.
Other depictions don't quite have that, right?
No, I think they all do.
Now, the last thing he is usually shown is his grave by the ghost of Christmas yet to come. It's a little more strongly hinted at in other versions, like something the Muppets Christmas Carol version has that many other versions don't is sort of the scene where the random group of people who have like stolen stuff from his house when he was dead are off trying to pawn it.
Mm.
Like in Muppets Christmas Carol, there's the giant spider they sell it to or whatever.
Okay, so it's just kind of implied that they're celebrating, this is dark future, and he doesn't understand why it's happening. But then he's shown his gravestone, and he understands. Wait a minute! All these people are celebrating my death.
Yeah, they imply that someone dies, but no one actually says Scrooge. It's all like, old what's his name finally died, blah 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 and whatnot, and what's it, and like when he's being shown to people that were like in debt to him, they never say his name. It's like they're like, yes, he's dead, and it's gonna take some time. For the debts to be passed to someone else, and by then we should make enough to pay off the debts and whatnot. So,
okay, but
so yeah, it's heavily implied. But Scrooge does not connect the dots until he actually sees the gravestone.
Okay, but even then, just seeing his gravestone is traumatizing for him, and it's kind of interesting that you would understand that you're an old man. Death is going to come for you eventually. Why not just accept the fact that death is going to come eventually? But maybe that's part of the problem. Maybe that's one of the things that he has to learn is he has to learn to accept the fact that he is eventually going to die and just come to terms with that.
I think part of it is that he spent his whole life gaining wealth. And I think he somehow thought that it would mean something, that it would be special or important some way. But then when he sees his real death, he sees that all of his wealth, people just come by and take it and sell it for scrap. He sees that people just, and in some versions they show like him, a group of businessmen talking, and they don't seem to care that he has died. He becomes this memory that's just evaporated into nothing. And he realizes that everything that he's worked for disappears. The moment he dies, it meant nothing. Everything that he valued suddenly means nothing. And I think that's the point, because I think he understood that he would die, even though he never really thought about it. It's what the nature of his death was, something he completely didn't see coming. And when he sees it, he's able to make a connection in his mind where he used to have something special when he was young. And then he realizes he's missing out opportunities in the present. And he realizes where it leads to. It leads to somewhere of just emptiness, where he becomes, even though he had a lifetime of success, that success didn't mean anything. In the grand scheme of things, it didn't mean anything at all.
Yeah, I think we mentioned it last year, and we were talking about It's One for Life. They're kind of opposite sides of the coin in It's One for Life. George Bailey's a young man showing that his life has value and that without him things would have gone terribly wrong, whereas Scrooge is an old man being shown that if he continues down his current path, his life has basically meant nothing.
Yeah, it's like he's met every goal, and it turns out the outcome of meeting his goals is that there is no great reward. There's nothing. People go on, and in fact, a lot of people are able to be better off without him.
So, BJ, having said that, do you think then that, I know we made fun of the concept of making it for a modern audience, right? Or maybe we were talking about a Rudolph thing. Anyways, but we're talking about making stuff for a more modern audience and how sometimes people kind of miss the mark. Do you think It's a Wonderful Life would be the Scrooge actually made for a modern audience?
I think they're different enough. Like,
because it kind of flips the entire concept on its head, where a person goes from being, because George Bailey doesn't ever really understand until the angel shows him how much his life has affected other people.
Yeah, It's One for Life is more about a young man, or I guess, well, he's still youngish, I guess.
Middle age.
Yeah, it's about a man who has not met any of his goals, but has unknowingly affected the life of many other people for the better. Whereas A Christmas Carol is about an old man who has made his life about the acquisition of wealth, and he is showing that after his death he has no lasting legacy. He has not affected anyone. No one's gonna go to his funeral unless lunch is provided, more or less.
Well, all those other people went to his funeral, but for entirely different reasons.
Well, no one actually went to his in the book. No one like went to his like actual funeral, and I don't know if you want to. I guess technically that musical number you could call it his funeral. I guess I don't know what funerals were like in the 1850s or whatever.
Lots of dancing on the casket.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of different societies have different. For instance, have you guys seen the meme of the coffin dance? Have you guys seen that?
Yeah. No, I have not. I have no idea.
So there's there's these people who are carrying a coffin, and they're doing this dance, and it's a very elaborate, and it's quite interesting. And
are they doing a dance while holding the coffin?
Yeah, they're the pallbearers.
Okay.
They're the pallbearers, and they are carrying the coffin, and they're doing a dance while they're carrying it, and it's quite elaborate and quite similar to this, but for entirely different reasons.
Well, that I've heard in that particular video, the coffin is actually empty, so I don't know how serious I would take that as a actual funeral rite or whatever.
I don't know, but anyways, but yeah, it's funeral so things are different for each culture. I know the Irish have a wake, and that's basically a giant drunken party. And depending on how big the person was in the community, the wake might be, so extreme that several more people might die during the course of the wake because there'll be so much partying and drinking.
Oh, the night that Patty Murphy died, the night I'll never forget. The boys got rowing drunk and he got sober yet, yeah.
Yeah.
Night Pat Murphy died by Great Big Sea.
I think I've heard that.
Is that song lyrics?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, it's Night Pat Murphy Died by Great Big Sea. Maybe not the best song for Christmas, but yeah, it's a song lyric.
Well, it's definitely a way to celebrate, to acknowledge that a person has died is to celebrate the things that they did good in life. And I think that if
No, I don't think Night Pat Murphy Died is necessarily about that, but that's neither here nor there.
But if Scrooge had a funeral, but it wasn't that everybody was celebrating the fact that he was dead, and instead that they were celebrating the fact everything good that he had done during his life, right? He might have been more accepting of that. I don't know. But that is the way it is. Yeah.
A copy of the
of the book.
The book? Oh yeah.
My room is cold and dark. That's why I identify with Scrooge.
It's a cold and dark room. Maybe a few cobwebs. I have a few cobwebs around me.
That's the last.
What are you looking up?
Just Gary talking about if doobie-doobie-doo. That was Scary talking about how if Scrooge has seen like people like more celebrating his life after he died rather than being joyous at his death. I was just seeing
like anyone celebrating his life. In the book, I don't recall anyone celebrating, except I mean they're happy that they.
There's one line I'm thinking of. So it's not like it's on the last page of the book, shall we say. So after his transformation, he became, so quoting from the book, he became as good a friend, a good master, and as good a man as the good old city ever knew, or any other good old city, town, or borough in the good old world. So yes, chances are when he died, he was mourned, I guess, rather than cheered in his passing. He was, not to put the damper on it, he was cheered, he was that awake in a good way, I'm sure.
Probably.
Because I think everyone would, well, I guess while they're being morbid and talking about funeral stuff, I think most people would rather have people laugh at their funeral than cry. Unless you're like weird and you're like, I want people to like.
I want them sad. They need to suffer. No,
I want everyone to be so depressed that I'm dead. Okay, we're gonna hard change subjects here.
Yeah, let's hard change subjects.
It's shifting gears.
I think
Okay.
I think we probably could do like. Is there anything else people want to add? We could probably do a final recap, unless there's anything else you guys want to talk about.
A final recap of A Christmas Carol.
Like
if you haven't read A Christmas Carol.
Final
thoughts of A Christmas. Well, yes, I don't know.
If you haven't watched the movie, so I think a recommendation of this movie, like I could recommend any Christmas Carol, but how about this?
I would recommend any Christmas Carol.
There's
one in particular I think is bad.
Why would we?
The Jim Carrey one.
Wait. Did you say that you wouldn't recommend any Christmas Carol, or did you mean that you wouldn't like recommend all Christmas carols?
There's one Christmas Carol I would not recommend.
Okay.
That's the Jim Carrey one.
Oh yeah, that one.
I've
not seen the whole of that one. But is that like the CG one?
Yeah. It's the one where they thought, well, this is a boring story. It needs like him slingshotted around the screen a lot. That'll fix this dumb story.
How
And in the end, it's awful.
How about this for a
At least
closer,
I'm
though?
kidding.
What could we say that would make people want to see this version of the Christmas Carol as opposed to any of the others? Because I know we talked for a minute about whether or not the Muppets or this one is better. So why should people go and seek this particular one out as opposed to any of the others? BJ?
This one, I would say, is probably closer as compared to a Muppet's Christmas Carol. This is probably closer to, say, a more Broadway version. It's more, the music is more show tune-y. Like, all the music is, well, not all the music. There's a couple of sad songs when Scrooge is like thinking about his past life, but a lot of music is insanely catchy. You're gonna be you're gonna be bouncing and saying thank you very much, or you're gonna be like me and kind of, after a bad day of work, and be driving home. I hate people. I loathe people. It's very catchy songs. It doesn't take itself too seriously. I mean, I don't know if I'm the best person to try to give a objective
You are, BJ.
review of this, since I literally grew up on this movie. Jeff, I'm not taking your advice on this, since you are the only person on the face of this earth that tries to recommend Star Trek motion picture to people. So I know what
that one piece of data
people.
is enough for you, right?
Yes.
It's enough.
Oh, that reminds me. Gary,
Yes?
have you taken the Hogwarts test yet?
Aha, we haven't talked about that. He's going to say...
All right, send me a link to a website. I'll go take a test, and then we can talk about it next time.
Ask your wife.
Fine, I'll do it. Fine.
Ask your wife. Your wife will know.
Okay. All right.
Go take the test, and then you'll come out as Ravenclaw, and then we'll talk about it. Gary's Ravenclaw. Either that or Slytherin. I wouldn't put it... You might be Slytherin.
I would believe... Oh.
Well, I can understand Slytherin because they are the ones who relentlessly pursue power, right? They would be Scrooge in his midlife, up until when the ghosts come visit him, right? I don't know if I could quite sniff my own farts enough to be a Gryffindor.
I can see. I
obviously don't know Harry Potter.
Well, I mean, I see Gary being Ravenclaw, but then Jeff's Ravenclaw, and I am still laughing about that every time it comes up.
So I don't know
what's so funny about it.
Okay, I will.
But aren't you the Huffle?
I'm Hufflepuff. I'm team everybody else, which is entirely in line, I believe. I saw that coming from a mile away.
Okay. But
so yes.
So you recommend this movie because it is very catchy tunes. I'll agree with you, by the way. Very catchy tunes, very show tuney and Broadway-y.
Maybe the best Ghost of Christmas present ever.
You know, I don't know if I'll quite agree with you on that one, but he's definitely in the running.
Do you have a Ghost of Christmas present you like more, Gary?
Oh, I don't know. I've seen a few of them, and I'd have to go back and watch several of them all at the same time, and then base them on some sort of metric, right?
Come back next year for our ranking of Ghosts of Christmas present. Ghosts of Christmases presents.
I don't know. Maybe I can go and do that over the next week or two, and then I'll send Jeff, and he can put that in the notes. Aren't there notes on the YouTube thing? When you post it, you can put notes, and then we can list out Gary's recommendations of Ghosts of Christmas Present. Which one is the best?
I put stuff in the description, but that's me, not Jeff. If you send notes to Jeff, who knows what happened to them?
Put things in BJ, you can put it in the description. Gary's ranking of all the Ghosts of Christmas Present. Which one he feels is the best.
over the Christmas holiday, Gary's going to watch every single version of A Christmas Carol.
That'll be a good idea.
He's going to rank all his preferences. I'm going to
do that.
Write this down. I'm going to send a note to Felina so she makes sure that you do this.
So I'm going to have to watch Christmas Carol a few times, and then I'm going to have to decide which one has the best Ghost of Christmas Present. I will take that homework, BJ.
Not just a few times. You took this upon yourself. You're going to watch every version. I don't even know how many versions there are of A Christmas Carol.
Oh, I don't know if I could do that, BJ. But I'll watch a few, and then I'll make my decision based on that.
Gary's going to come out of it. He's going to be like, bah, humbug. A Christmas Carol, humbug.
Anyways. Okay. So I like this movie. It's nice. Go watch it.
Yeah, and I do think this is the version to recommend for a group of people who enjoy anything that's a B movie. And I know BJ would be offended by that comment, but I don't think B movies are bad. I think they're good. So I think that's a compliment. So it's the kind of Christmas Carol you watch with a group of goofy people, and that's the right one. If you want a serious version of it, there are others, and if you watch it with kids, it's probably the Muppet Christmas Carol would be the best one, or the Disney one.
I'm just so laughing about how you've gone from non-recommended watching the group to kind of what I meant was
if you have a group of misfits. A group of misfit toys. That's the kind of group that you would need to watch.
You started with the absolute and changed your mind.
Don't get me started.
No,
Them's fighting words.
I regretted saying absolute as soon as I said, so we're going to move on.
Okay, so BJ,
yes,
your final thoughts. This is your movie. This is your special movie. So,
I think I've made it pretty clear. Watch it. I recognize that not everyone's going to love it as much as I do. I am okay with that, but I would say give it a shot.
Yeah, give it a shot.
Yeah. If you've gone through our podcast, give it a shot.
If you've gone this far, almost hour 50, maybe more, closer to hour 45 by the time I had this down.
Oh,
but still.
BJ, this podcast is over an hour long. I don't know if Jeff can listen to it.
Well,
I don't have to listen to it.
I was saying that's the joke. He's not going to. I'm pretty sure Jeff just kind of. Well, I said I wasn't trying to be nice to Jeff, but maybe it won't be back me. No.
No, your sentence started.
No.
Let the train get to the station.
No, Merry Christmas, Jeff. I'm being nice to you. This one sentence I'm not going to finish. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
That's my present to you. I'm being nice to you for about 5 seconds. Please note that in podcast notes. Followed by a deep, intense silence.
Yes. So, I don't really have anything else for it. End it there?
Jeff, do you have any final thoughts? Outside of waxing about the philosophy of economics?
Yeah, about the philosophy of economics.
Thank you for listening to the One New Tangent podcast. BJ with me is Jeff. I'm stopping recording. No, I'm kidding.
You just won't let our podcast change or naturally morph into an economics lesson like it's supposed to, like its destiny was, BJ.
To be fair to the handful of people who make it to the end, I figure if my eyeballs start glazing over, their eyeballs have glazed over like 10 minutes ago, so that's probably a good place to draw the line. And I fully expect you guys to do the same. If my tangents get boring, I expect you guys to cut me off. So,
yeah, this is a self-help group of when tangents go too far. My name's Jeff. I overanalyze. My tangents go too far.
Welcome to the Wandering Intervention podcast. Okay, not funny. I thought that was get a chuckle. I guess not.
Well, it got a chuckle out of me. I just kept it in quiet.
I was laughing on the inside.
It was funny, but not enough to communicate that.
I found it amusing. I just didn't want to reinforce you, BJ.
Well, my
silent
son
humor.
these days has been doing these excessive laughters, and I've been trying to teach him how to laugh quietly. And so that's kind of where my laughter has gone these days, is trying to laugh quietly.
It's a dignified laugh.
No,
not the uncultured, barbaric laugh. Very cultured.
We had a friend in high school, and was it our senior year that a bunch of our friends were in the Christmas Carol high school play? We had a friend who was the Ghost of Christmas Present, and his laugh changed because he was the Ghost of Christmas Present. He laughed as the Ghost of Christmas Present for as long as I knew him after that. I have not seen this friend. He never
broke character for the rest of his life.
I have not seen this friend for many years, so I don't know if his laugh has since naturalized, but this is the same friend that me and Jeff scared while watching What Lies Beneath by slapping the window behind him. Good times with this friend back in high school.
Yeah.
Good times.
I'll name names to kind of protect the innocent, because I don't even know where this guy lives in.
Yeah, we have to protect him from our mob of fans that would track him down.
Well, I want people to, expressly say that they wish to be associated with us before we bring them up, because otherwise they're like, oh.
Yeah, we don't want them mentioned at the trial or anything like that. Exactly.
Don't want to ruin their reputation online. Oh, you hang out with those nerds? Talk about
I have to admit, though, when I was in high school, I kept a lot of what I was secret. Like, I didn't tell people that I role-played on the weekends. And I didn't say any of that. I was like, I'm normal, Jeff, when I was a closeted buffoon.
Jeff,
I'm waiting for it.
You established the high school chess club. People knew you were a nerd. There was not a chess club before we were there. I don't believe there was a chess club after we were there.
Yeah,
the 3 years we were there, there was a chess club.
Yep.
People knew, Jeff. People knew. I was right there with you.
I was under the... What is it? I guess I just didn't want to... What's the words? I don't even know the words. But
you were a closet nerd?
I was a closet nerd. I was like, don't worry, everyone. I'm normal. I'm a normal. I'm one of you.
Jeff,
don't look at me like that. No.
Don't look at me.
Don't look at me.
Speaking of inside jokes, don't look at me.
That was one of our role-playing adventures.
Yes.
Yeah, that was. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a tower.
No,
like it was a moving tower, right?
No,
it was an airship.
It was an airship, and the engine was being run by a gnome who was inside of the engine. He was just running a crank instead of it being like some sort of weird steam power contraption.
We always wondered, like, how does the ship move? Like, what's inside of that thing?
And we opened it up to take a look inside to see the inside of the gnomish engine. It was just this gnome inside there turning a crank. And then he's like, no, don't look at me. Don't look at me. Absolutely embarrassing.
In the end, it wasn't elaborate engineering. It was just a gnome.
Okay, we are explaining our 20-year-old D&D notes.
I know, to people who have stopped listening 20 minutes ago.
For people who came here to listen to talk about Christmas Carol, and now we're talking about D&D. I think we established a long time ago, once we hit D&D, it's time to end.
Yeah. Yep.
And. Anyway, so
God bless us, everyone.
God bless us, everyone. My British accent, my Cockney accent isn't nearly good enough to do that justice. Anyway, so yeah, Merry Christmas, everybody. This is
Merry Christmas.
Come out on the 19th. After this, we'll have our whatever we watch for New Year's. But yeah, Merry Christmas. Hope y'all enjoy the holiday season. Peace on earth. Peace on earth, goodwill to man, all that good stuff.
Peace on earth, and long live and prosper.
Merry Christmas.
Yes.
Jeff's the only one trying to squeeze in Star Trek into Christmas.
Bah humbug.
Where's the Star Trek holiday special? Was there ever a Christmas Star Trek episode?
No. Yeah,
Missed
obviously that's the one
opportunity.
thing that, missed opportunity.
What's
They don't
what's
have
the Star Trek?
holidays in the Star Trek universe, apparently.
What's the Star Trek? Yes, they do. They have Captain's Day.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
They've got
I got there about Star Trek. Jeff did it. We're ending the podcast there.
They've got a Thanksgiving.
Do they?
Yeah.
Do they? No.
The
no,
next
I don't
generation,
recall
they
it.
celebrated Thanksgiving. Worf
What?
didn't understand it. He's like, why did you cook this bird? He didn't understand the concept of cooking meat.
What?
And then
I'm going to need a reference. I don't believe any
Just
of
like,
this.
what's the episode number?
This is hypocritical. It's not canon.
I will go look this up. I will go look
I
this up.
need the script. I need the air date. Who wrote this?
All right. Well, you
Is this
can
canon
end the
episode?
podcast, and I'll go look it up, and I'll show it to Jeff afterwards, okay?
Merry Christmas, everyone. Jeff and Gary's about to go on a Star Trek research spree. Happy Life Day.
Happy Life Day.
Hold up your glowing glass balls and walk into a star.
It's what we do every life day.
That's what you do every Life Day.
We just absorb into strange universe of some kind, and
You have to run the Imperial blockade so you can hold up the glowing glass ball to transport the Life Day anyway. Because that
of
makes
course.
sense. Yeah. Go back
It
and watch
works.
our Star Wars Holiday Special episode because it's way more entertaining than the actual Star Wars Holiday Special. In my humble opinion, of course. Okay.
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 Okay. This is dead as a doornail. This podcast is
There's
now-
a coffin now. Okay. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Even though I guess we'll see you close to New Year's on our next episode of the Wandering Tangent Podcast. I'm BJ. With me was Jeff and Gary. And we'll see you next time. You can't see it, but I'm doing the Jacob Marley hand wave out the door thing. Humbug.